Welcome back to the podcast. We have another special guest for you this week. We have Hilary Krieger, and Marlena actually hired her a couple months ago. She's an email marketing genius. And on our call with her, we happened to have a conversation about money. And that's one of the reasons that we asked her to be on this podcast. But she's like a wealth of knowledge, and she has so much experience and just experience with women and money. And so she's going to share her money story, and she's going to share we're going to ask some questions about what she sees in the industry as far as women and how they handle money or don't handle money, talk about money, think about money, all of those things. I know one of the things, you have a giant successful business and you clearly make consistent money in your business. And I know that there are a lot of listeners who are not at your level but are aspiring to be at your level at some point. So we're talking to anyone who makes money, wants to make money, has to pay bills, has kids, a house, dogs, husbands, cars, all the things, all the responsibilities, and you make good money. So there's one thing that stands out to me about our call. You were talking about your CFO. For those of you who don't know, that's a chief financial officer. And I want to ask you a couple questions about that, but you had a conversation with your CFO about selling a product or selling something, and your response to her about how you wanted to is it a her? It's a her,
Yeah,
right?
yeah, her, yeah.
About how you wanted to use your time has really stuck in my brain because we talk about return on investment all the time in the form of time or money. Like it does not always have to be financial. Can you, I don't know if you remember that conversation, but can you sort of walk us through that
Yeah.
conversation?
Okay, remind me what it was. What, like,
So
your
you
yeah.
had just launched the 100 days of content in 3 days.
Oh, yeah, yeah.
I think it was like $11 or something. And your CFO had a conversation with you about, in order to hit this number, you have to launch this or sell something. And you said going to the gym is more important to me right now.
Yeah, yeah. I think, just like I that converse I've had, like, we meet all the time, so I feel like I can't remember vividly what it is, but I sure I remember like an extent of what I said is that in 2022, my business 2 years ago now was like, I could have taken anybody, anything, it wouldn't have mattered. I mean, I made good money, but the problem was that it was costing me my life. It was costing me my time. It was costing me my health, and it was costing me my relationships in my life. It was just not it. And so I think that a lot of times I see women or even men, you just say yes, 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 yes to everything because as an entrepreneur, as a business owner, you don't work for somebody else, you work for yourself. So when you say yes to work, you're saying yes to money.
Yeah.
And so when you say no to money, you're saying you have to have it pretty clear what you're saying yes to. And it should be something that's worthy in your mind of saying yes to, and what deems it as saying yes to yourself. Some people don't find themselves worthy enough
Yeah.
to say yes to, so they're saying yes to money because that feels worthy. That is, the return on it, what money can do and provide, whereas going to the gym for an hour or two a day, what's the return on that? It's a long game. So I think that probably, I mean, you can refresh my memory more on that conversation, but I'm pretty sure she wanted me to charge more money for it. And and have maybe like some more of me in it. And I'm just like, no thanks. Like I'm not doing that. There's just no way. And I think that it's good to have somebody check you, but you'll have to like check yourself because, she also sees my money and knows how
Mhm.
much I make and sees the inquiries that come in. And I'm a pretty confident person, but it took a really hard year to realize, okay, this is not what I want. This is not it. Yeah.
Yeah, working for yourself is so hard. Like, it's fun and it's so hard because
Mhm.
drawing boundaries for yourself as a business owner is like the hardest part of the job for me. I don't know if that's true for you, but like I love to work. I love to be in the business, and so for me to pull myself out of it, it has to be like a conscious effort. And Marley and I were actually having a conversation the other day. About like, well, our next offer. And she was like, well, should we do one-on-one coaching? Should we do this? And I was like, listen, my kids are home for the whole summer. I can't give any pieces of myself away right now as much as the money. Like, yeah, I would love the money. And also, my kids need me more this summer. And I don't want to be angry with them for interrupting my work that I shouldn't have said yes to in the first place, knowing that they were going to be home. So it's like this weird cycle. Um, we have a client who her bookkeeper told her that her business was, like, tanking, basically, like, "Your business is losing money," and the more that we dug into it, we found out that her bookkeeper was only looking at a 30-day window. She wasn't looking at the big picture at all. She wasn't looking at, like, the investments that she was making. She wasn't looking at any of that information, and so she was almost ready to close doors to her business based on, like, one conversation with her bookkeeper. Do you find working with your clients or just like your friends in business, do you find that they like money is one of the one things that like trips them up in business?
Yeah, I think that it's the unknown of where the money is going to come from in 6 months from
Mm,
now. And also with having like, okay, so you need to market yourself. You don't know where the money's going to come from, so you need to sell from a place of abundance, not scarcity, but also you're like, where's the money going to come from in 6 months? So I want to make money, but I also don't want to sound like I need to make money. So it's like this whole ordeal that you literally have to sell. And you can see larger companies that do this that are just like, we're in the shit, we're going to do a deal right now.
mhm,
Or like they're all of a sudden they have a discount or they're counting on a big event to leverage their sales as to why they're making more money. Well, as a small
mhm,
business owner, you're the one showing up to do the sale. You're the
mhm.
one showing up. So you kind of got to like play this game of like people like to buy, they don't like to be sold to.
Yeah.
So you need to like figure out your marketing and your messaging in a way that's going to make you money. But yeah, it's so hard. And us too, as I don't know about anybody else, but as me, as a creative, like locking myself down into something for 12 months,
Mhm,
like, that's really tricky. I'm sure my CFO would love it if I did year-long contracts with, like,
mhm,
one-on-one clients, and I'm like, "Yeah, but the whole point is for them to not need me after 6 months, like, that's the whole point." But she's like, "We need consistent income or consistent revenue." I'm like,
mhm,
"Yeah, yeah, 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 it'll come." It's a really fine line. It's very difficult, but I don't know if that
mhm.
answered your question.
No, I don't remember what the question was, so we're in the same boat. What I kind of hear you saying without saying it is, like, knowing yourself and knowing kinda like your personality, but what you want from the life that you're living and the life that your business is actually building is more important than the money sometimes. Yes, you have to have money as a business owner. You have to have money in general. Like, if you're alive on this planet, you need money to live. So, like, one of the things that we see all the time is people wanna make, "I need more money, I need more money, I need more money." Well, what are you gonna do with it when you get it? Because like, the money that you already earn right now is gone before it actually hits your bank account.
Yeah.
What's gonna change? And so, I think it's societal pressure too, like, I need to make more money. Inflation doesn't help, but it's not the cause of things. Do you find anyone, like, in the industry as a whole or your clients or people that you talk to, is it like a drive to make more money so they don't have to think about money? Because that's what we're seeing. The more
Mhm.
money I make, I won't have to ever look at my money. I won't ever have to learn what to do with it or how to
Mhm.
make decisions if I'm making enough.
I think something that happened, like, in full transparency with me and my husband is the more money that we made, the more we found ways to eventually spend it.
Yeah.
And so it's like the sunset you're always going to be chasing. You'll never reach a destination if you don't have a goal. If you don't
Mhm.
know, okay, how much money does my business need to make in order to feed my family, keep the lights on, pay my bills currently? And then everything else is gravy from there so that you know what to say no to. So I know when somebody wants to work with me one on one, what's that going to cost me? That's going to cost me 40 extra hours and only make me X amount of extra money because I don't really need that money.
Mhm.
What's that payoff to me? Do I want to do that? So I think, yeah, I see that a lot in, I would say, like, man, they have like documentaries on it with multi-level marketing companies or like network marketing. And it's like you make all this money and then they want you to show that you're spending all this money so that they want the lifestyle that you have so that they buy into the company.
Mhm.
And I think that that definitely tends to be the case in maybe this like coaching space.
Mhm.
And I get a lot of questions like, what should my title be on Instagram? Or what should it say in my bio? Or what should I be? Like, I think that there is not enough people that differentiate between a coach, a strategist, and a consultant. And I think a lot of times in this coaching field, I see the whole like, you can do coaching to see my lifestyle, not so much in like the strategy and the consulting realm. And the difference in my mind is a coach is easier to get in under that title because what a coach does is they ask you questions and lead you come up with the answer yourself.
Mhm.
So when somebody's like, "Oh, I am a marketing coach," or "I'm a business coach," what that means is you're going to hop on a Zoom call with them. You're going to tell them your problems, what's going on. They're going to ask you thought-provoking questions, which is really great to have thought-provoking questions to guide you to the answer that you know you should be doing.
Right.
So when you get further along in business, this is what you already have. You and Marley have this together is that you end up having like-minded people that
Mhm.
you essentially coach each other. You have this like network of people. You no longer need to pay somebody an insane amount of money to just hop on a call and talk through how you're going to make money
Yeah.
or how you're going to do it. And actually, the answers are coming from within. You're doing that yourself. Whereas, like, a strategist is going to come up with a strategy. That's what I would probably consider myself is in between a strategist and a consultant is like, I look at your business. I say, this worked. This didn't work. Let's double down on what worked. Let's test it. Let's take some data behind it. Let's analyze your audience. Okay, what does your audience want? What's working? What's not? Let's do that. Let's launch this. And I'm coming up with a strategy. And then a consultant is saying, do this. And then
Yeah.
you go out and do it. And so I think like in this realm of online, to come back to like the money aspect, is in this coaching realm, this coaching field. That's where the like, I am a business coach. Look at how much money I make.
Don't get me started.
Yeah.
And I'm not gonna go down this rabbit hole too hard, but, like, that I feel like for me watching that, that is, like, business coaches duplicating themselves, and then we have this whole field of people who are talking about the same thing and sharing their lifestyle, and lifestyle is a huge thing that we talk about with our clients because the lifestyle you want and the lifestyle you're living right now could be two totally different things, but you could be living the lifestyle that you want right now and not actually be able to afford it. And you talked
Yeah.
about data earlier. The numbers don't lie. Numbers never lie. And if
Yeah.
you're looking at your story through data instead of your emotions, whether you're in business or you're in corporate,
Mhm.
that's going to give you a true story of what you need to make, how much you're already making, how much you're freaking spending. Because the spending problems we see, like, no shame to anybody. Like, we love for you to spend money when it's aligned with you walking towards your goals. The amount of spending that we see without knowing how much they can actually spend is it's sad. And as
Mhm.
women, we're not really taught how to manage money. Like traditionally that was men, right? Traditionally men learned how to manage money. They talked about money. Women couldn't even own a business or a credit card until 1974. That's not that long ago.
Mhm.
My mom was, like, 20 at the time, so, like, she was a grown woman when she could finally own
Yeah.
her own checking account and, credit card. We have so much growth and responsibility. We have a responsibility to our families, to our kids, to ourselves, if you own a business, to your clients, to manage your money in a way that serves everybody in a way that's not keeping you, like, hungry for sales in a negative way. We want you to be hungry for sales, but, like, not out of desperation, not out of, "I have to have $1,000. How am I gonna sell that right now? And, like, who are the first people to buy it?" Like, I'm just gonna go, like, low-hanging fruit. That's what we see happening,
Mhm.
and I don't know if that's the same in your, like, in your opinion.
Yeah, I also think there's like an underlining thing that ends up happening is that a lot of these, so for instance, like you see coaches or you see people that have a lot of money and that have a lot of followers, and you're like, "Oh, I'm going to do what they did to like keep essentially what you just said, like keep up with the Joneses." Well, and here's the secret. A lot of them get that shit for free. And like for instance, now that I actually don't really have that many followers, I don't think, but I get lately, probably over the last 9 months, I get a lot of stuff for free.
Mhm,
And it's like, come to my med spa, get Botox, get your lips done, I'll do your hair, go to here's some tickets to the Timberwolves game, like all those things that everybody is like, "Oh my gosh, I those influencers or those business coaches aren't sharing that
mhm.
they're getting stuff for free."
Yeah.
And another thing too is one of my very first like business coaches that I was like, when I make enough money, I'm gonna work with her. This was like 2.5 years ago. I like wanted to be just like her. I was like, oh my God, I want her lifestyle. I want who she is. Like I want everything.
Mhm.
I worked with her and it was like, why did I want to work with her?
Mm,
She literally is just talking about the money that she's making, all the time freedom she has with her kids, which she doesn't have. And then I find out she essentially bought all her followers. Like it just was like, this is so fake. This is
yeah,
so fake. So you need to like think about when you get into business. I think it's really good to know what you talk about. I'm sure like your numbers, how much money do you need to make so that you know what you can say no to? And then what are the things that you want, not the things that all these people who are in your field say that you should want. I don't know. It's a really fine line. And I feel like a lot of times people are like, oh, I'm starting to see this more maybe over the last year where everybody's like, oh, Hillary, I want to be just like you. And I'm just like, okay, I get that, but just know that it's been a lot of late nights this weekend. I have two really big client projects that I actually need to finish, and it's Memorial weekend. And
yeah,
my husband's taking the kids up to his mom's, and I'm staying back for
yeah,
48 hours. So those are things that people don't talk about because what
mhm,
they want to show is that the time freedom and the things they have. It's like, well, yes, but also no. Like it doesn't, it's not
yeah.
always that way. Yeah.
It's hardly ever
Mm.
that way, honestly.
No. Yeah,
I saw you
seriously.
post something the other day about, like, it's never been about private jets for me, it's been about, like, being able to say yes, being able to take my kids here. That's something really important to Marley and I, and that's something that we try so hard to talk like, to persuade our clients to want also. Like, if you want a
Mhm.
private jet, go for it. We don't care about that life at all. We want to be comfortable and we want room to say yes to the things that we want to say yes to without having to be like, "Ooh, how's that going to affect my like can I pay my bills? Can I?" That's the kind of life that we want. I saw you post that and I was like, "Finally,
Yeah.
finally someone has talked about the thing that we talk about all the time behind the scenes. What is the life that you actually want? And
Mhm.
how much is that going to cost financially That's the number we're working towards. We're not working towards $1,000,000 if your lifestyle is only gonna cost you, like,
Yeah.
125,000, like
It's so I seriously remember I have this program, it's called Messaging and Marketing Magic, and I used to run it live, and it was, like, my signature program. It was $3,000. I loved running it, and it honestly it got to be too big too fast, and I wasn't able to, like, deliver the way that I wanted to. Now I just run, like, small cohorts. I'm in the process of recording it so that I can have it be bite-sized, like, significantly smaller. But I remember I hopped on a call with a woman. She had about 200 followers. She read the book by Rachel Rodgers, and it was like, "Everybody should be millionaires." And she was like, "I wanna be a millionaire. I wanna make $1,000,000. I listened to her podcast. I read her book. Like, I'm gonna be a millionaire." And I thought, and I'm like, I am a pretty, how do I even say it? Like, I'm like, that's what you want. Okay, let's funnel through how you're going to get there so that
like
I can
reverse
reverse
engineering.
engineer, yeah, the strategy to get there. And I'm thinking to myself, you're a teacher. You work with other teachers. Teachers make 45 to $65,000 a year. You want to be a millionaire. Okay, that means that you have to create $100 offers. Okay, how many $100 offers do you need to sell for that so that teachers can buy it? Okay, and then from there, how much content do you need to make? Okay, then you need to make that much content. Okay, this many people need to be on your email list. I'm like doing the numbers. I'm like, ain't no way. Ain't no fucking way, ain't no fucking way this can happen. But it's like, I don't want to say that. So I'm like, yes, but also let's be realistic. Let's like be realistic with your goals, and then let's figure out why you want to be a millionaire. Okay, cool. You have two kids. You like living in the city. You don't want to fly on a private jet. You don't want to own multiple houses and, go out in Miami and do all these crazy things. Like, you don't want that. Why do you want to be a millionaire? Because you read a book
Yeah.
on saying everybody should be a millionaire? Okay, no. Why don't we just like not? I don't know. So I'm just very realistic with even like, I mean, my biggest freebie that I have is like a realistic launch goals calculator. It's like how many people in your audience, how
Mhm.
many people are on your email list, and it literally gives you a pretty good snapshot of what if you were to launch right now today, how much money you would make. And I utilize it on sales calls. I use it in a call with you guys. Like, I utilize it all the time.
Yep.
What is realistic for you to make? Okay, you only have 500 people on your email list and you only have 2,000 followers, and this is your third time launching. The likelihood of you selling $1,000 program is probably to only two people.
Mhm.
So you need to build content. Let's create a content plan. You need to grow your email list. Let's figure out an email list plan. And then let's do a launch plan. And
Yeah.
like those are the things that we need to concretely look at versus hiring a coach who's like, rah, rah, you got this. Like, oh, yeah, let's do that. And it doesn't work. Like, no, it's not it. This is not
There's nothing wrong with coaches. We're not like if you're a
it.
coach, don't turn
No.
off the
Yes,
podcast.
definitely.
But,
Nothing
like,
wrong.
I mean, technically, Marley and I are coaches, but we also 1,000% agree with what you're saying right now. There has become this, like, I don't even know what you would call it. It's like a sheep mentality. "Oh, let's all be
Mhm.
coaches, and we'll talk about the same thing. We'll have the same content and this." Anyway, I the little luxuries life is the life for me. And so and we try to talk about that. One of our clients actually yesterday, we had a meeting with her and she was like, "You guys, I had no idea I was spending that much money. Like I just lived my freaking life last year like I had it coming, like it was raining down." And we were like, "That was last year. We can't change what you did last year. But what we can do is set your family up for success this year moving into the following year." So like what does that look like for your family? Your family matters first, and then we concentrate on your business. What does your business need to produce? What do you need to bring home in order for your family to have that lifestyle that you dream of? And the other thing that we hear all the time is, I want to travel. That's my number one goal. And I'm like, okay, like, when's the last time you traveled? I don't know, like, I went to the beach last year, and I'm like, when you
Mhm.
say travel, what does that mean to you? Because the influencers are like jet setting to Bali and stuff. Is that your version of travel? Or is it like, I want to go on weekend vacations with my kids once a month? Or like,
Mhm.
so we just hear these blanket goals. And I think that people have gotten away from themselves. They don't know what they want. They don't know what they want to build and why they want to build that business and how that business is going to build the life that they want. But they may not
Mhm.
even know what their life is that they want. You know what I'm like? So their money goals we find are so dissociated from like what they actually want. I don't know if you find the same thing, but it's just
I think, yeah, for sure. And I think something too that I know my clients and even myself, like what I feel is that sometimes people in like finance or money coaching or like bookkeeping, they're worried about like you guys don't do this. They're worried about your business and
Mhm.
you as the business owner, you're worried about your family. And so
Yes.
there's been times that I have been like, my team will be like, okay, so you're running the mastermind and the retreat is in January. So this is how much. And I was like, no, like we're not fucking worrying about that money right now because I have X, Y, and Z coming up and I got to pay my kids
Yep.
private school. I, want to put X amount of money towards this project this summer. Like the retreat, yes, for sure. But we're not putting aside all of that money. You're worried about my business. I'm worried about my family. And I think that there's this disconnect between a CFO currently and like a CPA and even just talking about business finances in general is that when you work with small business owners, they want somebody who's worried about them. Let's say, for instance, I have a client and she can't make her mortgage payment next month. And she has me, her whatever, her coach or her money financial
Strategist.
strategist. And I'm like, hey, how much money can I give to my family this month? And then my CFO says nothing. And I look in my business bank account and I'm like, I have 5 grand in there. She's like, yeah, well, we have some expenses coming up and we need to keep some money aside. And it's like, no, Maslow's hierarchy of needs here. I need all of that money
Yep.
towards my mortgage to feed my kids. So there's just this gap. There's this disconnect between a CFO or a CPA who's all like, no, we need to stockpile money. And then somebody who's literally in the weeds and drowning. And
Mhm.
here's the deal, true entrepreneurs and business owners, when your back is against the wall, they can make money, but I can't make money if I'm not eating. I
Yep.
can't make money knowing that I have money in an account and I'm late on my mortgage payment.
Yep.
Like it doesn't, you can't do that. And I feel like a lot of times people who are CPAs or CFOs or money coaches, they are good with money. And so they don't understand or see that. And it comes across like, I, I, I understand you want me to save money, but
Yeah.
this is not going to happen because I need to pay some bills.
Yes. What's interesting about that is we've had several accountants come through our coaching and their money was a mess. Like they
Yeah.
accounting is not the same thing as money management.
Yeah.
And so we even asked our accountant one day, I asked him something about money management. He was like, "Oh, like we don't look at that." And I was like, "But you should because that person their goals for their family and the way that you strategize their taxes are directly related." So, like so money management is over here, CFO, CPA, accountant, whatever, bookkeeper, they're over here. They are not the same thing, and they're not always worried about how you manage your money, and that's kind
Yeah.
of what you're talking about right now. How did you choose that how did you know it was time for a CFO?
I think, I was when we first opened a business, we owned a gym and I did all the financials minus like the taxes. Like
Yeah.
I didn't file our tax or anything like that. And it got to a point where I felt like I was just doing our business finances, I was doing our family finances, and I had like trauma around it. It was like we also owned a business with somebody else, and I was like, we literally don't have money to even pay rent for the gym right now with like COVID coming in. So, like, I can't pay you a paycheck. And then I felt like a bad guy. And it was just like, it was terrible. It was traumatizing, and it got to a point where I was like, if I ever make enough money to not deal with my money, then I'm going to hire
Mhm.
somebody to help me out with that, because it would get so much like I would be having to like set up a payment plan with the IRS, and I was like paralyzed. I'm like,
Yeah.
I cannot do this. The problem is that in like 2022, I got pretty removed from my own money. I got removed from it because I was making so much that
Mhm.
I just didn't really have like a heartbeat on like my business finances. And so yeah, currently I have a CFO, and she helps, you know, let's be real, like, she's not me, like, we butt heads on things, like, there's definitely things that I'm like, no. Like, this is how it is, and she understands that, and, yeah, I think that for me, it was like, I don't wanna have to be doing this as often. I just need somebody to say, "Hillary, you need to make $50,000 in the next 90 days," and I'm like, "Okay." Like,
Right.
okay, and then she divvies up whatever it is, or I say like, "Hey, I wanna do X, Y, and Z," and she's like, "Okay, this is how much you need to do or what you need to bring in," and I'm like,
Mhm.
"Oh, okay, sounds good." So those 2 people that I actually turned down for one-on-one, like, I can say, "Actually, I have some availability for that," knowing that's gonna take me a little bit cost me a little bit of my time,
Mhm.
but then the payoff is that I'm hitting the goals that I dictate. She just condenses down into money form, how much that needs to be. Yeah.
And then you're not worried about your family and what your family needs or doesn't have.
Yeah, yeah,
Mm.
exactly. I fell trap to this like always launching low ticket small offers because I like making content, truthfully. And then I had like small offers, and then I had one-on-one, but the one-on-one inquiries that I was constantly getting just weren't at the level of like the businesses that
Yeah.
I work with one-on-one right now. Like, they're like, a lot of my businesses I don't even talk about as much that I work with one on one. So then I was like, well, what the heck? So I launched my mastermind, which is like a really good sweet spot for a lot of the people that want to work with me one on one, that I kind of like forgot about it. I was like, why am I getting all these one-on-one inquiries and I just literally can't I they need a one-on-one with me a month, but also they need each other. And
Mhm.
then Julie, my CFO, she just was like, "Hey, like, your mastermind always sells out and it's always really good, and why don't you do that again?" And Tyler, my husband, was like, "Yeah." And I was like, "Oh yeah." I like, duh, what the heck am I thinking? Like, I haven't, anyway, so that's like just getting, it's good to have people in your corner to
Mhm.
remind you to, and that's what my, CFO also is very helpful with, is like, oh yeah, that does really well. People have a ton of success with that. They get access to me one on one, and they have each other, and we do a retreat. And the price point is good because
It's insane.
one on one working with me is like, it's a lot. And and also it's a lot because it takes a lot. Like this
Yeah.
weekend, I'm literally not going up north because I have 2 one-on-one clients that I have so much stuff I need to do for them.
Yeah.
So it's a good happy middle that I wouldn't have remembered if it wasn't for my CFO, honestly.
Yeah. I love that. She sounds like she's on your team and not necessarily running things,
Mhm.
or telling you what you have to do, and that's what we want for people. When you're
Yeah.
hiring, we want you to hire for someone who's on your team and not removing you completely from your numbers because that's a mental thing too when you don't see any of your numbers.
Truthfully, and true transparency, there have been multiple months that I was just like, I feel very removed from things, and I've wanted to just say, "Screw it, I'm just gonna do it myself."
Mhm.
But I mean, we've, like, dwindled down a little bit of her, like, what she's doing so that I'm more involved, but, I mean, I right now anyways, I definitely need her to be on my not on my case, but on my team. Yeah.
on your team.
Yeah. Yeah.
I love it. Is there anything that you would say to someone who we're gonna talk to 2 different people right now separately. Is
Yeah.
there anything that you would say to a woman who she makes freaking good money and every month she's like, "It's not enough. I don't feel like I have enough money." From your experiences, is there anything that you would say to her?
What are you chasing? What's not enough? What is it that you want that you need to make more for? What are you avoiding doing in your business or within yourself or the relationships in your life that you feel you need to keep chasing more money? What is it that you're avoiding? I feel like that seems to be at its core that type of person that I see. I've worked with like, I don't even know, like 1,000 people at this point, and it seems to be it's like there's this thing called 7 layers deep of like, well, why do you want that money? Okay, what are you going to do with that money? Why do you feel you need that money? It's like this like putting on your coaching hat a little bit. Why do you need that? And what's at its core, and usually at its core is they're avoiding doing the mindset work that is what they need to be doing as to why they want to make more money. So that's what I would say, honestly. I'd just be like, "Okay, you need to make that money. Why do you need to make that money? And what are you avoiding doing by trying to make that money?"
I actually think you probably just spoke to both of those people. The other person was maybe the person who does not make enough money right now. Like what does she need to hear? It's mindset. It's the same thing. Ask yourself a bunch of questions. Why are you not making the money that you think you need or maybe you do need it? Marley said something one day about she read a statistic about like you or like they're only 35% of the population will out earn their whoever raised them, their parents, their
Mhm.
grandparents, whatever. And that's because you see how they make money, how much money they make, the lifestyle that they're comfortable living in, even if it's poverty. And you are only like only 35 of the golly, 35% of the population will make more than their family that they grew up with. That's wild, and
It
that
is.
comes down to money mindset and working on your money story, asking yourself a bunch of questions. Why is it that I keep capping myself at this amount? Um, this has been so good. I feel like I probably could talk to you for 5 hours and ask you a million questions, but we'll keep it digestible for people.
So
Um,
good.
thank you so much for coming on and
Of
sharing your
course.
experiences and, everything.
Yeah, it's been good. I think like something that I want people that are probably in your audience to know is that like social media a lot of times is fake, and just getting a really good heartbeat and understanding of what your own personal goals are and what it is that you need to make, and really getting a feel for that versus a feel for what everybody else is doing around you. Really easier said than done when everybody's telling you just make more money. But
Mhm.
it's really like, what do you need and why do you need it? And if you're not making the money that you want, I think that you need to figure out, this is something that I work on as far as marketing. What's the underlining reason as to why you're not making that money? And I think it really comes from the thing that you're avoiding. Why aren't you making content? Why aren't you starting an email list? Well, I'm afraid of my ex-boyfriend or my mother-in-law or so and so seeing me. Well, that block is something you need to work on with your mindset so that you show up in your marketing so that you can make more money. Like, there's always an underlining reason or a thing that you're avoiding as to why you're
Yeah.
not making more money or why you want to make more money. And I think at its core, that's probably why people should work with you guys, because you help them with both of those things.
That's true. And speaking of working with
Mhm.
people, I'm gonna drop your, Instagram so that people can follow you, and guys, Hillary's in her own DMs. She answers her own DMs, sometimes by voice memo. One day I got a video call from her, and that was like, "Wait, what?" Um,
That was
go
cool.
talk
I do that sometimes too, yeah. I'm like, "I'm sick of looking at my phone texting, I'm just gonna call."
go follow her. Like, even if you just follow her, go follow her, talk to her, ask her questions. Her marketing is genius. Just also go buy all of her products in Stan Store. Like, we have every single one of them, and we can vouch for all of them. So, go get them, do yourself a favor, and give yourself an advantage with email and marketing. Thank you so much for being on today, and maybe we'll have you back soon.
Yeah, sounds good. Thank you.